And finally, our last story on the news block. Some people have been wondering lately whether the NX will use cartridges instead of discs, and their curiosity isn't entirely without merit. A recent report from Japan says the president of Macronix, which is the company who supplies Nintendo with their ROM cards for DS and 3DS games, expects their shipment of ROM chips to increase thanks to the release of the NX next March. So this raises two big questions, neither of which we can really answer, but may be worth asking as we navigate through Nintendo's weird waters of 2016. First, between the spring release and Macronix's involvement, is it possible that what we're getting in March is a handheld system? And second, if it uses cartridges, will it use them to replace discs if it's maybe potentially a home console? And then I guess sort of subsequently from there, is that a good idea? Will it even matter? Yada yada.
Okay, so just to kind of address the ROM chip report. So it looks like the source of this report is speculating that because Macronix is making newer 32nm chips to replace the 75nm chips they use for 3DS, that perhaps this is the ROM chip that the president is talking about. That's possible. However, the story that is being reported in this case is nearly identical to one from about 10 years ago that was about Wii. And we obviously didn't use cartridges. So I'm thinking it's more likely that Macronix is talking about ROM chips that are going to be used for the hardware and not ROM game cards.
Interesting, okay. I know that's one thing we were talking about as a team for Gamnesia, and I know a copy editor, Justin, mentioned that the ROM chips are read-only, and so they wouldn't be able to say, or they wouldn't be able to write over data and wouldn't be used for hardware, it sounded like is what he was saying, but I also don't know enough about this to know whether that's, accurate.
Yeah, and I don't know what exact component they supplied for Wii, but they did supply something for Wii, and they described it in very much the same way that they described whatever this component is. So I'm thinking it's more than likely that kind of arrangement. However, that doesn't necessarily preclude NX from using cartridges. It just means that this report doesn't really confirm it.
Yeah, I mean, I would like for this sort of, I don't really want to say rumor, it's more like speculation or an assumption, being made by the publication that put this out. I would like for something like that to be true. I think it would be great to use cartridges again, as long as it's price effective, just because I don't know how expensive these new chips they're using are going to be.
Yeah.
And also another thing is just like Nintendo, either they're going to have to include a big hard drive and allow you to install your games to the hard drive, or they're going to have to switch to something other than the discs they're currently using, just because it's a huge bottleneck. You look at Wii U, and that's got 2 gigs of RAM, 1 gig for actual games, so it can load a gig's worth of information onto your screen, hypothetically, at any point in time. But Wii U discs only read at like 23 megabytes a second, so if they wanted to actually use up that whole 1 gig to fill your screen with stuff, it would have to load for 40 seconds. And NX obviously is going to have more RAM than Wii U. It's going to be able to load more at once, and if it's comparable to PS4 and Xbox One, you're talking about 8 gigabytes of RAM, and then discs that only read at 23 megabytes a second. So, they're going to have to do something to erase that bottleneck. Mm-hmm. Whether that's copying the competition and having you install games to a hard drive, or whether it's switching to something that reads faster, like cartridges, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, so I think all in all, my takeaway was that it's not really time to react positively or negatively. If it uses cartridges, I think, there's very good reason that could be exciting and that could be a good move for them. And if it doesn't and it still uses discs, hey, that is what it is. Hello everybody, thank you for listening to this Nintendo Week clip, NWC. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more highlights and discussion videos from Nintendo Week podcast, or subscribe to us on iTunes for weekly breakdowns of all your Nintendo news, discussion segments on subjects, games, and more, and tons of other features. Thanks for listening, and we will see you tomorrow with another NWC.